Um, Something else that was kind of fun this week that we saw, Mark, was Fred Warner went on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, which I believe is run by football players. So Fred Warner's in his element. He's feeling loose. And at least from what I could tell by the clip that I listened to, kind of begrudgingly was coaxed out of his top 5 current 49ers list. And of course, humbly put himself as number 1. Although, wait, so Mark, do you know the list? Have you seen the list?
I definitely saw it, but I don't have it memorized in
Okay.
my head.
Then before we reveal Fred Warner's list, how would you rank the 49ers this year? Because he did put them 1 through 5. They eventually forced him to do it. And I'm curious what you would rank 1 through 5.
Okay, so this is in no particular order. I'm just saying names to get them all out there.
You're
First of
Fred
all.
Warner right now. This is what he did first, and then they forced him into 1 through. Okay,
I will.
Go.
But just for the sake of me visualizing this all. So the people that need to be considered: Trent Williams, Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Fred Warner deserves to be considered for this.
I guess.
You guess?
The podcast.
George Kittle. Kittle. That's what, 4 so
That's
far.
4.
McCaffrey obviously deserves to be considered.
That's 5.
And then
You're already 5.
Is that it? I mean, I'm thinking of people who need to be considered. Am I missing? Oh, Debo. Does Debo need to be considered?
That's 6.
That would be the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I think Debo might be on my outside looking in at that top 5. I don't know. This is I mean, I guess the point is the Niners have a lot of incredible talent. I don't know. How would you rank the top 5?
Yeah, and of course didn't name Charvarius Ward, who might be up there as well.
Yeah.
Didn't name maybe their best receiver this year, Brandon Ayuk. Wasn't on that list. How would I? Well, unfortunately, I know the list, but I would be something similar. Like my top 5 would include those 6 guys you named in some different order. It'd be Bosa, it'd be Trent, it'd be Fred, it'd be George, it would be Christian McCaffrey, and it'd be Debo. Although, so a lot of this is, of course, based off of last season, but let me give you Fred Warner's 1 through 5, which again, it was like pulling teeth. Like they basically had to torture him into separating himself from his teammates.
So let me guess, he put himself 1, huh?
Yes, he did. Yes,
okay. He did. I mean, you got to do that.
Yeah, I feel like you have to. It's given. So Fred Warner, number 1. Trent Williams, number 2. And he added, sorry, Nick Bosa, even though you're DPOY, you're number 3.
Okay.
Number 4, Christian McCaffrey. Number 5, Debo Samuel.
Wow.
Honorable mention, George Kittle.
He left Kittle out of the top 5?
Kick rocks, George.
I think for the most part, it's a good list. I mean, he put himself number 1. We could say whatever we want about that, but you throw that out. I mean, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa.
Trent Greenlaw's a better linebacker than Fred
Trent
Warner.
Williams, Nick Bosa, and Christian McCaffrey. That seems like a pretty, like, in a good order to me. I don't know, 1, 2, 3. I don't know exactly where I'd fit Fred Warner and George Kittle and Debo Samuel in.
What about a quarterback? I think like this is so indicative of the team, though. Well, yeah, not to say consider one of their guys under center, but it's like the 49ers, for as great as they are, do not revolve around the quarterback as much as, of course, everyone makes it out to be. Like internally, they're like, all right, well, we got the best linebacker in the game. We got the best tackle. We got the best tight end. We got the best run. Let me see. Oh yeah, I guess a quarterback. No, they don't really make the cut at this point. Top 6. Sorry, Brock. Sorry, Trey. Sorry, Jimmy. Hit the pike.
At a quarterback, some guy who was playing in the Big 12 last year. Yeah, but I mean,
dude, it could be a quarterback next year from the draft that finds themselves in the top 8 for the Niners.
It could be. You're right. I mean, any other legitimate Super Bowl contender in the NFL, like what? There's 5 or 6 legitimate NFL Super Bowl contenders. All of them will have their quarterback like number 1 overall, and the Niners aren't even in the top 6, 7, 8. Best players.
Even if you went down the top NFC teams, how many teams would not have their quarterback as their top 5 member of their team? Like, all right, let's go. Eagles, yeah, Jalen Hurts, yeah, he's in there. If you want to go, Minnesota Vikings, they were the 3rd seed this year. Yeah, Kirk Cousins is in the top 5 of their team, whether you like it or not. Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, probably in the top 5 of their team. New York Giants, Daniel Jones, probably in the top 5 of their
In
team.
terms of money, he is now. That's for
Well,
sure.
he's number 1. Big kahuna. That's what Daniel Jones is.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon got franchise tagged. He's probably a little upset. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's wild. The Niners have been able to accomplish what they have, which still isn't winning a Super Bowl, but doing it without a high quality quarterback. I do think it's a little bit of an out for Fred Warner to be asked this question when Jimmy Garoppolo isn't on the roster. You know that everyone in that locker room loves Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe they would feel obligated to throw him on there, but it's easy to just, not mention Brock Purdy or not mention Trey Lance because, really what have they accomplished at the NFL level? It's easy to put them off, but I guarantee, Evan, let's say this appearance for Fred Warner on Bussin' with the Boys happened week 10 when Jimmy Garoppolo's in the middle of his good run of play and he came out with this top 5 and the honorable mention that didn't include Jimmy Garoppolo. We would be talking, oh my God, Fred Warner hates Jimmy Garoppolo. He thinks he stinks. So I think it's a little bit of an easy out for Fred Warner not to have to mention a quarterback. But still, the larger point stands. Just imagine what the Niners could accomplish if they had a top flight quarterback that deserved to be in this top 5. It would be a sight to behold because they're already one of the most talented teams in the NFL, and their quarterback position has a giant question mark on it.
Which is why, to answer your original question, and this is assuming I can't put Kyle Shanahan in my top 5 49ers. So if we're just looking at the players, I think it would be a pretty similar list. It would be, number 1 would be Nick Bosa for me. Number 2 would be Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Number 3 would be Trent Williams.
Yeah, I think that's the top 3 pretty safely.
In whatever order you put him in, I think those are their top 3 guys. Number 4 would probably be Fred Warner. And number 5, I hate to say it, but the best ability is availability. And this past year, Brandon Ayuk was a go-to guy for that offense.
Okay.
And as the receiving leader, I got to slot him in my top 5. And unfortunately, George Kittle missed the beginning of the season due to an injury, so he had some ground to make up. But when George Kittle was not playing with Brock Purdy, he was a very different player. I know he still blocked the same, very different receiver. Brandon Ayuk was the same with all 3 quarterbacks. I give him some credit for that. He rounds out my top 5.
That's fair enough. Okay, I'll do mine just for the hell of it. I'll have Bosa 1 as well, but I will go Trent Williams 2 and then Christian McCaffrey. I'm gonna go. I'll go George Kittle 4 and Fred Warner 5. Oh, Fred Warner 5. But yeah, it's hard to forget what Debo did a couple of years ago now. Just incredible, remarkable, one of the most insane offensive seasons in NFL history. But wasn't nearly as effective this past year. And I know he was banged up here or there, and we've talked a lot about that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the larger point still is that the Niners have insane talent. I respect your Brandon Ayuk inclusion in the top 5. It does kind of get my brain
only for this past year, and maybe that was what Fred was kind of basing his criteria off of, was just like his teammates, and of course he's been there for a long time, so he values that sort of longevity. But this was Ayuk's real first breakout year, so I could see why obviously anyone would favor Debo when you're having those conversations.
Yeah, that makes sense. It did kind of, you including him kind of got my brain working though, because I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had, and I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself. It probably does not come up this offseason much, but there will be a time in the future, Evan, in the soon future, the near future, when the Niners have to decide if they want to pay and keep Brandon Ayuk. It's not coming up this offseason. The general timeline is they do it the offseason before the final year of your rookie deal, which is a year from now for Brandon Ayuk. And with all the money that they owe Nick Bosa, with what they're already paying Deebo Samuel, there'll come a time when the Niners have to decide if they want to sign Brandon Ayuk and keep him, or if they want to let him go, or if they want to try to move off of someone. And that would be, hint, hint, Deebo Samuel, because you'd be signing a number 1 receiver and you already have one on your roster. That conversation is going to come at some point for the 49ers. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not happening this offseason, But just be ready, Niner fans, because that conversation will come at some point.
Well, and that's why I'd asked the question in the first place. Why do you spend so much to go out and get Christian McCaffrey? I mean, he does pretty similar things to what Deebo Samuel does. I know he's a little bit older, but he's got a better track record. I mean, I'm just saying there are a couple there are a couple pieces, and this is actually why I think their offense is so good, is because they have so many guys that do similar things. But when you're talking about, Mark, like what you said of, all right, who do you want to keep and who's on the chopping block, you do then have to evaluate who is a little more expendable than others. And right now, I see a couple of guys that do the same things on offense, which makes them so dynamic. But which one does them better?
You heard it here first. Evan Giddings anti Christian McCaffrey. That's what I'm hearing. That's the only thing I'm taking away.
Oh no. Whatever you're thinking, flip it around. That's what I'm thinking, Mark. If you can read between the lines, it's not about Christian McCaffrey.
Well,
it's about the guy who asked for a trade last season.
The first thing you said was, why'd they go out and get McCaffrey? I don't know. That seems like you're questioning that move to me.
No, my bigger question is, why did you pay Deebo $20+ million if you are then going to go out and trade for someone who does everything that Deebo does, only he's done it for a little bit longer and slightly better?
Hey, if one is good, two has got to be great. That's all I'll say.
I'm with you. That's something we'll put it in the cap, Mark. We'll revisit it down the line. But that'll wrap up this episode of the 415ers podcast. Of course, we're coming at you potentially later this weekend with a Brock Purdy update for you. So, of course, we'll be tuned into that. Friday, March 10th, Brock Purdy, elbow surgery, book it. We're looking forward to it. And then, of course, next week with our free agency episode on Tuesday, negotiations, as Mark mentioned earlier in the episode, on Monday, and then free agency set to start officially when people can put pen to paper on Wednesday. So 2 episodes coming at you next week, one this weekend. Mark, I appreciate you, my man, and I look forward to it.
Yes, sir, Evan. Have a great rest of your night.
All right, take it easy, everyone. You've been listening to 415ers podcast on the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network.